Hello guys, welcome to reading class for this week. I am looking forward to seeing some of you back in person next week. Hopefully we'll see how things play out. So this might be our last full week of virtual, at least for now. So I'm going to go over our learning goal for this week and kind of walk you through what you're going to be learning about. All right, so this is our learning goal for this week. You guys can read it with me. I am learning to identify text features in nonfiction text. So this week, we're going to be working on just identifying different kinds of text features in the text. So text features are really kind of a fun thing for us to be learning this week. And a text feature basically is anything that the author throws in there onto the page to help you as the reader understand what you're reading better. And you probably have noticed that whenever you're reading a nonfiction text, that you might notice some things that the authors put in there that look a little bit different than if you were reading just a normal chapter book. You might notice bright colored photographs. You might notice some words that are in bold or written in a different color. You might notice a little bar on the side of the text with some fun facts or some extra information. So all of those are text features. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some examples of text features together. I have a vocabulary that I want to show you guys on text features. It's really, really good. And then we're going to go through your assignment agenda for this week and look in your iReady book at what it is that you are going to be working on independently. So we're going to start with our slideshow. I'm going to go through just some different examples of text features. Guys, I know that you have seen these before as you've been reading. You probably just didn't know what they were called. So that's our goal for this week, is just to be able to identify these text features in the text. Now later on, we will go a little bit deeper with text features, and we're going to be working on figuring out why the author put those text features in the text, okay? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today too. But our main goal for this week is just to be able to identify and name them in the text. So on this first page of our slideshow, you can already see a few text features on the text. You see this big thing at the top called the news. Guess what? That's a title. You see this box on the side. That's called a sidebar. This is a picture, an illustration. So that's kind of cool. Even on our first page, we see a couple of examples. So what are text features? Authors include text features to help the reader better understand what they have read. Text features provide information that may not be written in the text itself. So if you see a little box on the side or you see a picture with some words underneath, if you don't look at all of those different parts of the text, you're going to miss out on some important information, okay? They can be found in textbooks, magazine articles, newspapers, reports, web pages, and other kinds of nonfiction text, any kind of nonfiction text that you can think of. If you go to the library and check out a book about lizards, there's probably going to be text features in it too, okay? So this is our first example that we're going to look at. This is called a table of contents. And so guys, you would find a table of contents at the very beginning of the book, of a nonfiction book. It lists all the major parts of a book along with their page numbers. It outlines the main topics or main points, and readers can use the table of contents to help locate information in the book and see how everything is organized. So if you were checking out a book about lizards, but you really only wanted to know where lizards live, you could look at that table of contents, find the chapter that talks about where they live, their habitats, and you can go straight to that page. So the table of contents really helps you if you're looking for something specific in a text. So this table of contents here is an example. It tells us there's 2 chapters in this book. Chapter 1 is called All About Animals. Chapter 2 is called All About Plants, and then we have page numbers that even break down each of those chapters. So we have a question we're going to try to answer here. It says, where would a reader find information about where an animal lives? So if you were the reader and you were doing a project and you wanted to know about where an animal lives, which page number would you look at? You could flip through the whole book, but that would take forever. If you look at the table of contents, guess what? It tells us right here, animal habitats is on page 3. So you could go straight to that page. So the table of contents really helps you find information in the text. Okay, the second text feature we're going to go over today is called an index. An index is kind of like a table of contents, okay, but it's a lot more specific. So it's an alphabetical listing, so it's an ABC order, and it lists every name, term, event, topic in that book with the page number that it can be found on, okay? Now, the table of contents is usually at the very beginning of the book. The index is usually at the very back of the book, okay? So it's kind of like the table of contents, except it's a lot more in depth. It gives you every single topic in the book. And also it's an ABC order. So that kind of helps. If you're looking for something specific, if you go to the table of contents and you can't find it there, check the index at the back, okay? Here's an example of what you might see in an index. It's an ABC order and it gives you the page number beside each topic. So where would the reader find information about the topic? Acid rain. Well, we could look at our index right here and it tells us it's on page 396 and 397. Okay. All right, the third type of text feature we're going to learn about is a glossary. And a glossary is like a mini dictionary that goes along with that book. So it's not going to be a dictionary that has every word in our language in it, but it's only going to have words that go with that book. So if you have a science book in that glossary, you're going to have science words. If you're reading a book about weather, you're going to have weather words. If you're reading a book about a specific place or a time in history, you're going to find words in that glossary that go specifically with that book, okay? Glossaries are also found at the back of the book, like the index, typically. It's a list of key terms in ABC order, and each word is defined. So it gives you the meaning of that word, okay? So if you're reading and you see a word that's difficult or you don't understand what it means, check the glossary because it may be in there. Okay, so here are some examples right here. And the glossary includes acid rain and adapt. So if I were reading and I didn't know what it means to adapt, I can flip back in the glossary and it's right there. All right, this next one is big. And we are going to see this text feature a lot this week, and it is titles. So titles tell the reader the topic of the text. We know that the title is usually right up at the top, right? It helps to show the main idea of the text. Think back a few weeks ago when we did main idea back before Christmas break. The title gives you a big hint as to what the main idea is. It helps the reader by letting them know what they are about to read. And it focuses the reader on a topic so they can make connections between what they already know and the text. And here's some examples of titles of some newspapers. Space Age is here. Russia wins the race into outer space. Red Moon over London. Those are all titles. So if you're reading and you see the title, that tells you what that text is mostly about. Okay, the next one, and I'm going to kind of edit this a little bit because this slideshow calls this text feature subheadings. We're actually going to change that. We're going to cross out the sub, and we're just going to call this text feature headings, okay? So forget that that sub is there. We're going to get rid of it, and we're going to call this text feature headings. So a heading divides the text into smaller sections. So you'll have a title up at the top, and then underneath, sometimes in nonfiction, you'll have little sections that the text is broken down into. And the heading is like a title for each of those little sections, okay? So the example we have here, we have two headings. We have helpful ants and types of ants. And usually the headings are in bold See how they are? They're in a bolder print. Sometimes the headings are written in a larger print so that they stand out, and they can help the reader find specific information. So if I wanted to find out about a fire ant, I would look right here under types of ants, right? Because I can figure that helpful ants, fire ants probably aren't helpful ants. So they're not going to be talking about fire ants here. I can guess that if I look under this heading, I'm going to find that information right there. All right, let me delete my drawings there. Okay, the next one is another one that we're going to see a lot of. So you're going to see a lot this week of title. You're going to see a lot of heading, and you're going to see a lot of this. We call this bold print or keywords. So this is when the author wants to make a certain word stand out because it's important. They make that word in a bolder print than the rest of the words. We call that a keyword. When the author has a word that we want to pay attention to, that we need to make sure that we know, that's called a keyword, okay? And it signals to the reader that this is important, okay? Authors sometimes also write words in italics. That's when the words are kind of leaning sideways. Sometimes they use a different color to make a word stand out. So just know that when an author makes a word a different color, a larger print, in bold, that it's important and you need to pay attention to it, okay? All right, the next one that we're going to look at is photographs and illustrations. And you'll see a lot of these in nonfiction, and these are pretty easy to find. We know what a photograph is, right? It's taken with a camera. It's an actual picture of something. An illustration is a drawing. So sometimes an author might have a hand-drawn picture that's in the text to help you. So photographs and illustrations, they give information in a visual way. They help tell the story. They work with the words and headings to help teach the material, and they help the reader to better understand from an idea from the text that might have been unclear. So we have some examples here of photographs. Have you ever seen a manatee or know what a manatee is or what it looks like? Well, if you never have, guess what? Now you have. Look at this photograph of a manatee. If you didn't know what a manatee was, you could use this photograph to help you figure out what it means. So photographs and illustrations really help the reader to visualize and to know what something in the text looks like. All right. The next one goes along with photographs and illustrations. It's captions. So a caption explains what is shown in a picture or illustration. They help the reader understand information that may or not be in the text. And usually you'll find a caption right underneath the picture or the illustration or photograph. Sometimes it's over to the side. So the caption here says, "These gold coins were found on the ocean floor." So if you didn't have that caption, it might have been a little bit more difficult to understand what was in that picture. It looks like it's sand, but we wouldn't have known that these were gold coins and that they were found on the ocean floor. So captions are really important. They help us to understand and explain what information is in a picture. All right, this one, guess what? We're going to rename this one too. All right, so I'm going to annotate. You guys stick with me here. We are going to change this text feature from a side box into, we're going to call this a sidebar. Okay, so just hang with me. This text feature can be called a text box, but in your iReady books, it is known as a sidebar. So I want to make sure, let's see if I can just replace that right there. I want to make sure that we are calling it the correct thing. And I don't want you to be confused whenever you see it in your iReady book this week. So this text feature we're going to call a sidebar. And it's a little box on the side or at the bottom of a text. And it includes interesting facts or important information that the author wants you to know, okay? So here's some examples. See this little box right here? That's a sidebar. So you'll see that a lot in nonfiction text. It might say extra information or cool facts. Or it could have, and it usually has its own little title to let you know, but this is a sidebar. It's a little box that helps the reader by just giving some additional facts and information, okay? So not a sidebar, that is or not a text box, that's called a sidebar. Okay, this is the last one we're gonna look at today, and there are even more than this. I know I've given you a lot. Maps, and these are, I think, the easiest ones because you guys know what a map is. So a map, basically, it's a drawing that shows the basic shape of the land, and it helps the reader to understand where an event happens. So if you're reading about a forest fire that happened in California, you could have a map that can show you this is where California is located. This is where the forest fires are happening. We're over here in Kentucky. You can see that that's a really long way away. So maps help the reader to understand where an event in the text is happening, okay? Now, I know that was a lot of information, and if you want to rewind this video and go back and watch them again really quickly, that might be really helpful. Or as you're working through your iReady book this week, if you get confused, you can go back to this video and kind of find that text feature that you're struggling with, if that might help you, okay? All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you a vocabulary for text features, and it is a really good one. Give me 1 second to pull it up. It's very catchy, so I hope that you enjoy it. Leo here just found out he has to do a report on sloths. He checks out a nonfiction book. The title is All About Sloths. This is a little bit different from the fiction books that he's been reading. It's got all these text features. Those are the things that draw his eye to important information and help him understand all the interesting facts. Leo's gonna use those text features to find his way around the text. So, Leo opens the book. It looks like nonsense till he looks in the front for the table of contents. It's nothing like the table in his kitchen. It lists big topics with a short description. Leo sees chapter 2 is called Sloth Habitats. It starts on page 15. He flips to that at the top of the page. Just as expected, it says Sloth Habitats in very big letters. That's called a heading. It helps him figure out what this section of the book is all about. There are subheadings too. The chapter's divided by smaller headings like trees and climbing. Leo sees a picture that makes him laugh. A sloth hanging from a branch, that's a photograph. It was taken with a camera, put in the book to show us how a sloth really looks. Underneath the photo, there's a quick description. That's a caption. It tells you what's in the picture. Leo starts to wonder, what's a sloth diet? There's a text feature that'll help him find it. It's called the index. All topics of importance are listed in the back in ABC order. Leo spots diet, that was easy to find. It's on pages 7 through 9. Feeling lost in the book that's non-fiction. Text features will put you in the right direction. The captain has a compass, a pilot has a map. You can use text features to find facts. Feeling lost in the book that's non-fiction. Text features will put you in the right direction. The captain has a compass, a pilot has a map. You can use text features to find facts. Leo keeps reading. It's making him think. He sees that some species of sloths are extinct. Extinct is bold. What's up with that word? It's bold because it's something new to learn. It could be italicized or underlined. Want to know what it means? It's easy to find. In the back of the book, there's something called a glossary, where new words are defined properly. It's an ABC order. Leo looks through the list. He sees extinct means it no longer exists. Now he's flipping through the pages. Hang on, man. He spots a cool image called a diagram. That's a picture that shows different parts of something. So Leo knows how it works, how it functions. There are labels that point out different parts, like stomach, lungs, and his loving heart. This table compares sloths to giraffes. We can also compare with a chart or a graph. These are visual ways of organizing data. So long, sloth. We'll see you later. Peace out. I said we'll see you later. I forgot how slow these guys are.
Feeling lost in a book that's non-fiction. Text features will put you in the right direction. The captain has a compass, the pilot has a map. You can use text features to find facts. Feeling lost in a book that's non-fiction. Text features will put you in the right direction. The captain has a compass, the pilot has a map. You can use text features to find facts.
All right, guys, wasn't that an awesome one? I love that one. It's super catchy. All right, so we are going to go through our assignment agenda for this week and go over what you're going to be doing in your iReady books today. All right, so on Monday, which is probably today if you're watching this, you are going to be working in your iReady books on 160 to 161 and then watching this video. Hopefully you're watching it right now. But 160 and 161, so 160, it basically introduces you to text features. You have a little text down here that you're going to be looking at. I already see some text features that are standing out to me. I see a title, a heading, sidebar. So be looking for those as you're reading this week. So over here, you are going to be matching the text feature to what it does. So the first box says, tell us what the whole passage is about. You're going to choose the text feature that would match with. Which of these tells what the whole passage is about? You can cross these off as you use them. Okay, so that is what you're going to be doing on Monday. On Tuesday, you have a couple of iReady workbook pages to work on, and then there's a video here. And guys, all of these videos are on Google Classroom, so you don't have to type in any of these. If you go to Google Classroom under classwork, this is week 17, there's links for all of these activities right there, okay? So let's look at your iReady pages for Tuesday. All right, you have another text to read. And guys, what I recommend that you do as you're reading this week, label your text features. You could take a pencil and label right here. This is the title, right? This is a sidebar. Down here at the bottom, these are headings, bold print, or keywords. So guys, that's one thing that will help you this week. As you're reading, go ahead and label those text features. Because over here, guess what you're going to do in your chart? You're going to give an example from the article of each text feature. So the first one is a title. The example was polar bears in the Arctic, because that's the title. And then you're going to have to tell me, what does that text feature do? So the next one is a heading. So you're going to give an example of a heading from the article and tell what it does. What does a heading do? How does it help the reader? Okay. All right, let's look at, oh, and you have one more, I'm sorry, page 166. You have a short answer question. Explain how polar bears survive in the winter. Tell how you found the information in the article. So you're going to have to go back in the text and find that information. And since you know that that's what you're looking for, you could, as you're reading, go ahead and underline that information. That will help you when you're answering that question. All right, next up is Wednesday. You're doing 164, 165, 167. So you're reading this text, how plants live in a desert. Again, I recommend that you label your text features. You have a title, you have a photograph, you have a sidebar, you have headings, you have bold print or keywords. Label those. That way when you come over to answer your questions, you've already found most of those text features, okay? So you're gonna do that, read that, label, you're gonna answer the questions on this page, and then you have a short response. Plants have three main ways of surviving in the desert. Tell what they are and how the author uses text features to call attention to them. So the author gives us three ways that they can survive, and there's a text feature that helps you to find that information. So that's what you're going to be answering there. Okay, Thursday, 168 to 161, and then there's a game, a QUIA game for text features that you can play if you have time. So you're going to be reading this article called Oddball All-Stars. Again, I recommend that you label your text features. You have a map, write map out beside it. You have a photograph down here at the bottom, all kinds of text features. Label them as you're reading, okay? So the text is 3 pages long, and then you're going to answer the questions on 171, okay? On Friday, you have only one iReady workbook page to do. It's page 172. It's the next page that goes along with that article, Oddball All-Stars. And you're going to answer question 4. 5 and 6 is an extended response. It says, explain the similarities and differences between the Galapagos penguins and their Antarctic cousins. First, tell how the penguins are similar, then explain why the Galapagos penguins have had to change. Finally, tell what those changes are and how they help the penguins survive. So this is kind of a long question, and it recommends on number 5 that you plan out your response before you begin writing, okay? And then also on Friday, there is a quiz on Google Classroom called Text Features, and it is under classwork. Week 17, you're going to see all the links for this video, for those other activities, plus the quiz is going to be there for you to take if you have time, if you have access to Google Classroom, okay? All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I look forward to seeing you soon.